the eagerness is there. I mean, you do see, without exception, kids up to a certain age love it. They just love being outside they don't have any preconceptions, no prejudice about what's modern and what's not, and what's digital and what's not. They just see what they like. If it's natural, they don't question it. They just absorb it. Yeah, so I think it does. But after that, I think in adolescence, it does seem in my job, I've noticed it has dropped off. You do notice a drop off. Well,
that's interesting because stay with us, Ben, and keep talking, because I want to bring in a young guest that we had on the programme last year. He's James Miller, and he won the Cairngorm Young Nature Presenter Award. He's 14 and he's doing a lot to inspire other young people to get out and enjoy nature and the great outdoors. James, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again.
Hello.
And thank you for bunking off lessons at school in Guildford. I hope you're not going to get into trouble. Just put them in contact with us. Now, you have been very busy since winning that award last year. What have you been up to, James?
Well, as a result of the competition, I've been invited to become a member of the RSPB Phoenix Forum, role which starts in October. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I also had a go at doing some bird ringing a few weeks ago, and we caught a little owl, which was amazing.
Oh, wow. It's quite a privilege, isn't it? We got the chance on Out for the Weekend to go and watch 2 ospreys being ringed at Loch Garton, 2 osprey chicks, and it was absolutely incredible. I've got hairs in the back of my neck even thinking of it. It's amazing to watch, isn't it?
I can imagine, yeah. Yeah, well, the owl certainly was, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Now, Ben is here, Ben Dolphin. He is a countryside ranger and very much a champion of the great outdoors, like yourself, James. Remind Ben and our listeners what you had to do for this competition.
Well, I had to submit a 1.5-minute documentary on a species of my choice, which was badgers, to the website. And, yeah, I just had to... It was all my own films, and then I presented it.
And Ben's had a look at that.
It's really good. It's a natural.
Yeah, he thinks you've
really got. Good, James.
He thinks you've got a very promising future in nature presentation, James. What else have you been up to? Because you're still blogging, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still blogging. I post documentaries, videos, interviews, all sorts of things up on my website. And I went to the Bird Fair in Rutland as well to give a talk, and I really enjoyed that.
Brilliant. Ben and I were speaking a bit earlier about the difficulties of keeping teenagers engaged in nature and wildlife. Ben was saying that he was very engaged as a youngster, but then there's that drop-off. He notices that from his work. What are your thoughts on that, James? How do you keep people your age still interested when there's all these other distractions?
Well, yeah, it's very difficult. I think seeing as scientific studies show that in general you need to get children interested in wildlife before the age of, I think it was 12, or they're a lot more unlikely to ever have an interest in it. I think really all of this needs to be done in primary school. So maybe taking the children out on wildlife-related school trips, or teaching them about nature, either linking it to the curriculum or doing it as a co-curricular club. At this age, really, it's very difficult. I have won over 1 or 2 people by taking them on a badger walk.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, badgers can be very persuasive.
And these 2 people that you took out, I mean, were they kind of not that interested before, and you saw a difference in their attitudes after seeing this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people my age, they're not really interested in wildlife, but they are quite conscious of the environment and recycling, and they can appreciate the outdoors, although they don't necessarily go and watch the animals in it.
James, can I just ask, how long did you have to wait for the badgers to come out? Did you get your friends to stay still for that long?
Yeah, it was difficult sometimes, keeping them still and quiet, but yeah, it was. It depends on the time of year, to be honest, but usually they come out after about half an hour, but yeah.
But worth the wait. I mean, obviously worth the wait for them.
Yeah. It's a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some good points that James was making there, Ben, about getting children younger, perhaps, and getting it into their DNA almost.
Well, we do a lot of work with primary schools in where I work in West Lothian, and a lot of them are live in quite urban environments, and the schools they have green spaces behind their schools, but they don't always have enough helpers to get the kids out. There's a definite enthusiasm, there's a willingness there to get the classes out, but obviously they don't have the resources, or if they have a strip of land behind their school, they can't use it because it's full of broken glass. So there are obstacles to it, but there is a willingness there. But it can be difficult to find them places sometimes.
And that's interesting, James, isn't it? Because you speak to people like Chris Packham. They say that they started exploring right on their doorstep. I mean, even just lifting up logs in the back garden. Do you think there needs to be maybe a bit more encouragement just to do that right in your garden, right in your doorstep?
Yeah. So that's partly what my parents did with me. They always took me out in the garden, and we were searching among the flower beds and turning over logs. And yeah, that can really help. So if the parents would do that, I'm sure that would help a lot.
James, I know you're pretty interested in wildlife photography. Ben is a very accomplished nature and wildlife photographer. He's been doing it for years. Any tips for James, Ben?
I suspect he knows his trade already. I think it's patience and just... it's a mixture of it. You can be in the right place at the right time, but just being... There's a lot of sitting around. I'm sure, James, you must have sat around a lot waiting for things to happen.
Yeah, especially with the badgers. Yeah.
Especially with the badgers, yeah. And but then that teaches you a craft in itself about how to take photos in dim light as well with badgers, because obviously they come out at dusk, and that can be quite challenging. It can be quite frustrating to try and take the perfect picture of a badger, because I did. I mean, it takes hundreds. People see a sort of a blog. Like James, I noticed you did a blog for the RSPB where you just said how many retakes you had to do to actually get the perfect delivery on your videos and that's absolutely the case. It's people see a finished product, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, and so James has put his effort in for it, definitely.
You must be a patient man, James.
Yeah.
And what kind of stuff have you been photographing then? Photographing? That's a new word I've just made up. What kind of stuff have you been photographing then?
Well, recently it has been mostly badgers, because with all the hot weather, they seem to be very active. So yeah, I've got some nice films over the last week, because they've been coming out quite early. They've been coming out about 7, believe it or not, or 6:30 even. So yeah, that's what it's been mostly.
So what are your ambitions now? I mean, you won an amazing accolades last year. What do you want to do now? Where do you go from here?
Well, I'd still love to be a wildlife presenter or filmer, and obviously the competition has made this more feasible for me. But yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm trying to build up a portfolio of documentaries and films. I've got a few more coming out on the way soon, which will be put up on my website.
Fantastic. Amazing. And, I mean, Ben made the point to me, he'd watched your badger documentary and said that he thought a huge draw for people of your age would be seeing someone their age, you presenting to them, that would make the connection.
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, it's certainly done it for a few people in my year. And maybe if something like this was done on a wider scale nationally, then, yeah, that might have a bigger effect.
And what do your friends think when you're heading off to the hills, or you're heading to spend a couple of hours watching a badger set? What's their reaction?
Well, it all depends on how open-minded they are. They can sort of be divided into varying degrees of open-mindedness. I mean, some wouldn't touch a pair of binoculars with a barge pole, where others, they've enjoyed the badger walk and they can see where I'm coming from.
I think what might put some young people off is thinking that they have to get kit or they've got to outlay, but you don't, do you? You can start pretty basic, can't you? Yeah,
you can start. I mean, you can just go out with just your clothes, really.
Yeah, it was good to wear clothes when you're going out, I suppose.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, Ben, it's a case of you can start pretty simple, can't you? I mean, in a way that I guess that James did and you did yourselves.
Yes, so if you're lucky enough to have a garden, I mean, a lot of folk don't.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there's so much going on under your nose but most of us are barely aware of. But I mean, if you're walking along a path and you hear a rustling, most of us just walk on by. But if you just stop, sometimes 10, 15 seconds is all it takes for a little shrew or a vole or a mouse to actually think, oh, they've gone, I'll come out now.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost that sort of that instinct of
just being inquisitive, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, being inquisitive. I think we're quite rushed these days, and our faces buried in our phones, maybe.
Yeah. And do you think that's a problem, James? The fact that life is kind of busy now, and everyone's got gadgets, haven't they? They can't really, look up and notice and hear things.
It is, yeah. I mean, certainly at my age, when we're just starting our GCSEs and the workload's just increased, as well as sports practices after school, there's very little time, and unfortunately, the only spare time they have is usually spent playing video games. But any spare moment, I think, could be used to go out on a walk.
Indeed. Well, listen, we're looking forward to seeing you on the box at some point, James. I have absolutely no doubt. It's always a joy to speak to you and hear about your adventures. Thanks, James.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you.
Thanks.